They thought Koda was jealous of the attention their daughter was getting. They misunderstood everything. Anneliese Vasquez Thornbury had been a wildlife rehabilitation volunteer for 5 years before her daughter Wren was born. She knew animal behavior the way some people know a second language, fluently, instinctively, without needing to think about it. That fluency was about to be tested in her own backyard. Wren was 2 years old. Koda was a 5-year-old Siberian Husky, silver and white, more interested in digging holes than anything resembling vigilance. That afternoon, they were in the side yard near the tree line at the edge of the property, Wren pointing at something in the grass, while Anneliese knelt beside her, half watching, half distracted by her phone. Koda, who'd been lying in a patch of sun by the fence, stood up sharply and moved to stand directly between Wren and the tree line. Not his usual loose trot. Stiff-legged, ears pinned back against his skull, a low sound in his chest that wasn't quite a growl and wasn't quite a whine. "Koda, go lie down," Anneliese said, barely glancing up. He didn't move. Wren reached her small hand toward a patch of wildflowers a few feet ahead, and Koda stepped sideways to block her path entirely, his body a wall between the child and the trees. Anneliese felt the first flicker of irritation, the kind reserved for a dog acting out for no clear reason. In her years volunteering, she'd occasionally seen dogs act possessive of a child's attention when a new sibling or new focus arrived. She filed Koda's behavior under that same heading without giving it more thought. "He's just being weird today," she told her husband Desmond, who came out onto the deck to check on them. "Maybe he needs a walk," Desmond offered. She almost agreed. That would have been the easy answer. Instead, she nudged Koda firmly aside by the collar and lifted Wren up so she could reach the flowers herself. Koda didn't relax. He circled behind them, positioning his body between Wren and the tree line again, this time with his head low and his eyes fixed on a specific point in the underbrush that to Anneliese looked like nothing at all. "Koda, enough," she said, sharper now, embarrassed in front of Desmond by the dog's persistence. She led Wren back toward the house, with Koda trailing, still glancing over his shoulder toward the trees every few steps. Desmond suggested putting him in the garage until he settled. Anneliese agreed, more out of frustration than certainty. They walked him in, closed the door, and went back to enjoying the afternoon, with Wren on the lawn, a little closer to the house. Koda began throwing himself against the garage door within minutes, not scratching, full-bodied impact, over and over, a sound that carried across the yard and made Desmond wince. "Something's really bothering him," he said. Anneliese hesitated at the garage door, hand on the handle, and in that pause she made herself actually think instead of react. Koda had never behaved this way. Not once in 5 years. She had spent years learning to read exactly this kind of insistence in wild animals, the specific difference between a stressed response and an alert response. She had missed it in her own dog because she hadn't expected to need the skill at home. She opened the door. Koda shot past her, ran straight back to the side yard, and planted himself again at the exact same spot near the tree line, this time barking, sharp and continuous, refusing to stop. That was when she finally looked past the wildflowers and into the underbrush itself, low at ground level, exactly where Koda's stare had been locked the entire time. A coyote, thin and clearly unwell, was crouched in the brush not 15 feet from where Wren had been standing minutes earlier, watching the yard with the flat, patient attention of an animal that hadn't eaten in days. Anneliese scooped Wren up without a word and backed toward the house, Koda pacing beside them the entire way, positioned as a barrier the whole retreat. Animal control arrived within the hour. The responding officer, Graciela and Kemdirim, confirmed what Anneliese already suspected from the coyote's posture. That's textbook desperation behavior in an animal that size. It wasn't going to announce itself with noise. Your dog caught the scent of it long before it ever got close enough for you to see. Another few minutes of that little one wandering closer to the tree line, and this would have gone very differently. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you're in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Anneliese sat on the back steps that evening, replaying the whole afternoon. Koda's rigid stance at the fence, not jealousy, a body physically absorbing a threat she couldn't detect yet. The barking at the garage door, not agitation, the only alarm system available to him. The single unbroken point of focus on the underbrush, not distraction, precision. Has your dog ever done something you couldn't explain until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. She called him over and sat with him on the porch steps, Wren already tucked safely inside. "I should have trusted you the first time," she said. Koda leaned his full weight into her side, the tension finally leaving his body all at once. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. The next morning, Koda took up a new post by the fence line without being asked, watching the tree line the way he always would from then on. An animal expert's dog who had simply understood the yard better than she had.